Hey beautiful YouTubers, it's Tess and Lilia. Hello. And I had a really awesome day today, actually. First of all, somebody contacted me yesterday, this girl named Brittany, and she was like, hey, I'm in your city and I collect reborns. And I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? She's like, nothing. And I'm like, let's go to Panera. So I had a little dolly meetup. I didn't get any videos or anything, but as you guys know, my phone dies a lot, or doesn't hold that much memory for video. But I did take a picture for Instagram. But we'll probably be meeting up again soon. She has a Lincoln kit. So that was fun, and then work went by really fast, and then I wrote some fan fiction. My friend came over and we played games. Also did a little shopping. I just got a few things. That's for Lilia and any other newborn. Just put a onesie under it and it works. And this is for Blair, because Blair hasn't gotten anything lately. What's that? And she can wear that with tights. So yeah, and then Lilia got this. It's got giraffes on it. And I'm just going to wrap her up, and then I'm going to read you guys a chapter of fanfiction. So if you don't want to be told a story, you can head out now. I know most people wouldn't want to listen. Or not most people. Hey, if you want to hear my fan fiction, this is a new one. This idea was a prompt given to me by a reader of Daughter of a Dead Woman, which is my main fan fiction. And they were like, so I was thinking, what if Luke and Leia were raised together? And it's like, wait, who would save the galaxy? Because there's no help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. There's no princess to save. What would get them off the planet? And what would happen to the galaxy if Luke and Leia grew up together? And it would be an interesting character study of Leia, because you're used to her as this politician. She's, let's face it, Luke's a little wimp in episode 4, and Leia is all grown up. They're the same age, but she's so much more mature than him because she's like a senator, and she was a senator at 16. Anyway, so yeah, here's the fan fiction. It's not too long. This is just the first chapter. It's called The Planet That It's Farthest From. It's after a line that Luke says where he's like, well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from. And then I thought it kind of tied into this story being kind of far from what you're used to. But yeah, that's the prompt. Here we go. You ready? Getting her to suck on her finger because it's cute. Or not. Okay. Tatooine. It was a planet known for little other than heat, sand, and sun. Those who lived there for long enough had rough, sun-damaged skin and an equally sun-damaged disposition, having given up all hope of ever leaving the place. A few miles west of Anchorhead, within the Great Chott Salt Flat, that's a mouthful, lay the Junlin Wastes, canyons, rocks, womp rats, Jawas, and sand people. Junlin lived up to its meaning, no man's land. No man, it seemed, but the Lars family. The Lars homestead was a moisture farm on the outskirts of the Junlin Wastes. 63 tall, thin pipes called vaporators were splayed out around the property, turning humidity into droplets of water and storing that water in underground tanks. The harvest was approaching and the hard work with it. The actual living area started with a dome made of pore stone, which led into an insulated crater of rooms, plenty to house the family of 4 that inhabited it: Owen Lars, his wife Beru, his nephew Luke, and his niece Leia. Aside from the hum of the central vaporators and the occasional bleat of a Tusken Raider far off in the sand, the Lars homestead was mostly a quiet place. For this reason, Luke Skywalker could hear the approaching sandcrawler long before it arrived. It started out as a small brown box in the distance, slowly rolling through the sand towards the homestead. "Uncle Owen," Luke called from the courtyard, shading his eyes from the sun. "The crawler's here." Luke was a sandy-haired 19-year-old with a medium stature and lean build. There was still quite a lot of boy left in his face, still room for the look of a young man. His skin was bronzed from almost 2 decades under the Tatooine suns. His blue eyes held a lust for adventure and recklessness that he could not satiate. He wanted nothing more than to be free of the moisture farm and become a pilot like his father. Someday. Though as each day passed, someday felt more and more like a dream. Once the sandcrawler parked in front of the homestead, a dozen Jawas, meter-tall aliens in cloaks, exited the vehicle and began unloading droids. They understood basic. Though they understood basic, they spoke in a jabber of guttural hisses and croaks unfamiliar to most humans. Luke and his Uncle Owen made their way over to take a look at their inventory. "Luke," called a kindly voice from the crater. Luke pivoted and jogged to the crater's edge to acknowledge his aunt. "Luke, tell Uncle if he gets a translator, be sure it speaks Bocce." "Doesn't look like we have much of a choice," Luke replied, "but I'll remind him." While his uncle took a look at the golden protocol droid, Luke inspected a white and red R2 unit. "Luke," his uncle interrupted, "take these two over to the garage, will you? Then pick up your sister and head straight back. Between the two of you, if she's willing to help, you should be able to clean them up by dinner." Luke's expression sunk with disappointment. "But I was going to stop at Tashi's station and pick up some power converters." I always laugh at that line because Luke is such a little wimp in Star Wars Episode 4. "I'm sure the last thing your sister wants to do after working in the shop all day is sit around the Tachi station waiting for you to stop wasting her time with your friends. Now come on, get to it." Anchorhead was not the safest of cities, but no place on Tatooine... Oh, sorry. Page break. This is a next section. Anchorhead was not the safest of cities, but no place on Tatooine really was. It was roughly 80 kilometers south of the much more dangerous Mos Eisley, occupied by a market, a couple of cantinas, poor stone stores, and just barely outside the city was the Tashi station for power and distribution. One of the small poor stone stores was a clothing shop owned by Naldish Moors, an elderly man with white hair and orange wrinkled skin. His assistant in the shop, outside the harvest season at least, was 19-year-old Leia Skywalker. She was a beautiful girl with dark eyes and brown hair with highlights of lighter colors. She had fairer skin than most who had grown up under the Tatooine suns, with freckles dashed across her nose, but it suited her. Skywalker had spent most of her younger years either working the moisture farm or learning how to cook and clean at the insistence of her Aunt Beru, the latter of which Leia abhorred. Much like her twin brother Luke, she had interest in ships and swoops and adventure. The two used to plan future escapes from Tatooine, flying away together and never looking back. Luke would find the best pilot academy out there, and Leia would further her education, which to date had been self-administered, in something that fascinated her like history or politics. Her brother was still as big of a dreamer as ever, but Leia had become more of a realist within the past 2 years or so. When she and Luke had just turned 17, Luke was able to handle most of the farm chores, and without really giving her aunt or uncle any warning, Leia came home one day and told them she had gotten a job at Nal's clothing shop. It was the right thing to do for herself and her family. It kept some credits coming in once the harvest was over. Besides, she liked feeling useful, and getting a break from hearing Uncle Owen constantly putting her brother down was nice too. Leia checked her chrono. She expected Luke to pick her up any minute, with Nal gone for the day. She started bringing up some of the clothing racks inside to close up shop. She didn't notice that a green-skinned Rodian was sneaking around the racks on the opposite side of the store until it was too late. No sooner did Leia finally notice the Rodian running away with her bag she had left behind the counter, an impossibly tall creature with a dark brown pelt intercepted him and erupted into a growl that silenced everyone on the streets of Anchorhead. Leia adeptly pulled out her DL-44 blaster, trying to pacify her trembling hands as she feared the hairy alien wanted her stolen pack for himself. With a simple blaster against a creature, her chances were slim to none. With one swift swipe, the creature smacked the Rodian to the ground. "Hey!" Leia snapped, her fear turning into intensity and making her words come out much harsher than intended. As the alien's furry head tilted as if trying to understand her, she put her blaster back at her side for a moment, praying the animal understood basic. "That was stolen from me." "Relax, kid," said a man approaching them. He dug Leia's pack out of the hands from the unconscious Rodian beef and returned it to its rightful owner. "The Wookiee was doing you a favor." He gave her a wink, and Leia tried to wipe from her face any indication of just how charming it was. "Thank you," she said evenly, first to the hazel-eyed man, then to the Wookiee. "No problem, sweetheart." Guess who that is? I always grin at when people do fanfics or whatever, and they do Han and Leia's first interaction. It's always something really charming. But yeah, that's what I got so far, and I'm working on the second chapter. So yeah. Did you enjoy that? Let's pretend she's asleep. It's also nice to do something that's not so dark. This one isn't nearly as dark as Daughter of a Dead Woman. Even the title sounds dark. Daughter of a Dead Woman. Anyway, great day today. Probably trying to debate whether I want to write more or... Cause I'm at a little bit of a block. Maybe I'll finish Andy. I don't know. Yeah, it looks pretty. She has these random, like, sparkles on her face. Like, one here and one here that I just can't get off. But yeah. Here she is. Love you guys. Bye.